ho, chickadees! It's Wine and Crime Wednesday. We've made it halfway through the week yet again. And here we all are together, back to the old regular schedule for Wine and Crime Wednesday. I am definitely a couple pounds lighter from my wig cut that I had on Monday. So thank you very much for allowing me the time to get, the wig in order. It's a little unruly, a little too much. Had to get that wrangled, if you know what I mean. Thank you, Kelly, and good evening to you. I do not have water tonight. I probably should have brought water in here. I have my same old Dr. Pepper Zero. That's what I have for this evening, but I know I'm going to have a lot of talking to do. Hey, Bailey's. Yes, I saw that. Thank you so much. And I'll be watching Cats on the replay crew. So thank you, Ava. Welcome this evening. So happy to have you with us. So couple of things. I know we talked about Festivus. And I lined some people up for Festivus. We're going to have a really good lineup. And the way that I have it structured, everyone's going to have plenty of time to air their grievances. And if they have any feats of strength that they would like to demonstrate, we will be able to do that. But at the end, after we've aired all of our grievances, I truly hope that we will have some serenity now, because I really need some serenity. Some people is way underselling it. Let me tell you who we have. Hello, KS Granny. Thanks for joining us. So, some people. We have former FBI agent Jodine Weber. We have the delightful DJ and Boston Bia from Calling All Beings. We have Lauren Katie, who is a regular on Court TV and also a private investigator. And we have Kat Not Williams, who is going to be showing up for us for her airing of grievances. And last but certainly not least, we have Nurse Kim. Nurse Kim is where it kind of all started for me. I am fiercely loyal to people. And so anyone that has given me an opportunity or helped my channel in any way grow, that's kind of what this live stream is about. We're going to have a Festivus so that we can air the grievances. But in addition to that, it's an opportunity for me to thank each one of them for being a part of this experience. So, hey, the Goodmans are here too. Good evening. Thank you, KS Granny. So yes, I am super excited for it. I think it will be fun. I know that I had agreed, you all probably know all of this. I agreed to be part of a live stream that was a fundraiser for Karen Reed's civil case. I have kind of decided activism, fundraising, that's not really my wheelhouse, and there's nothing wrong with it. I certainly support those in their endeavors, but it's not something that I really have a heart for, mostly because I want to save everyone, and it's too difficult for me to pick and choose. And so it plays on my soul too heavily. And that's the reason I just don't want to get involved in any of it, because how do you decide who's worthy of your activism in your fundraising? So for me, it is simpler and much easier to stay in the lane of educating all of us, being a juror, and having a grand old time on my channel here. In addition to that, apparently there was some confusion about me having an issue with anyone that was going to be appearing on that particular live stream. Hey, Missy, nice to see you. And I want to make it abundantly clear, I don't have issues with other content creators. I find myself being very supportive to everyone that is producing actual content on YouTube. And so for me to be accused that I had some issue with one or two or all, or it doesn't matter. I don't have an issue with anybody on any of the fundraising live streams or any of the content creators that are conducting live streams or that are fundraisers and are a part of activism in their particular area. I don't do it, which is why we're going to have the people I want to have on my channel next week. So, no drama. We're here to embrace everyone, be kind to everyone. You all know how I end every stream. That's how we are here. So, yes, and Denise, I think is what that is, how you say that. Yeah, no, I won't get pulled in. No, we don't do that here. I don't have time, energy, or interest in any of that. So, all of that being said, we need to talk about Sarah Grace Patrick. And before I get too far, do the YouTubey things, like, subscribe, notifications, share. If you're replay crew, thank you so much. And make sure you send me a comment. And thank you so much to my mod for being here. I do want to do a summary of Sarah Grace Patrick. After we do the Sarah Grace Patrick summary, I want to get into the maps. We got to talk about the maps for in the Tennessee versus Zachary Adams case, also known as the Holly Bobo case. Y'all. And I'm hoping that I can get Dana from Trial and Error podcast on my channel. We have briefly interacted in the past. That's likely going to come. Another thing I'm considering doing is my Monday nights. I may turn those into, because there's so much content to go over with Zach Adams and the Holly Bobo case, that might turn into a weekly edition of more information. I want to watch with all of you Terry Britt's recantation of his testimony. I want to listen to the entirety of Terry Dykes's testimony in the post-conviction relief hearings. And we're going to do maps tonight. I'm sure as I dig further into it, we'll think of more things that we want to listen to or explore. But I know those in particular, and those are rather time consuming. So we will get into all of it because I think it's fascinating, especially when you look at the maps, which we're going to do tonight. But before we do that, let's talk about this. Her. Y'all. Yeah, we got to talk about Sarah Grace Patrick. So I'm going to go through the timeline. This first part is a summary, and then we'll go through the entire timeline. And then there are a couple videos that I'd like to highlight for all of you that will give you some additional context. But we'll start with this right here. I'm going to see if I can make it just a little bit bigger because I'm old, y'all. Y'all know that. I'm old. Got to be able to read here. Okay. Sarah Grace Patrick is a Georgia teen charged with killing her mother and stepfather in February 2025. After months of public mourning on TikTok, she was arrested following a detailed investigation involving digital evidence and forensic analysis. My interest is already piqued. Back in February, 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick called 911 to report that her mother and stepfather had been shot to death in their Georgia home. But it wasn't Sarah who found them. It was her 5-year-old half-sister. That little girl walked into the master bedroom, discovered their lifeless bodies, and ran to call for help. Sarah called shortly afterwards, sobbing and shaken. or so it seemed. With unimaginable loss, she posted heartbroken TikToks, pleaded for support, and even reached out. Y'all get this. Even reached out to a true crime influencer to help bring awareness to what was at the time believed to be an unsolved murder. She gave a public eulogy. She shared childhood memories. She cried online. She told the world she was shattered. But according to prosecutors, it was all an act. Now, I can tell you, oh, hey, Disney nerd. Spit it out there, Janet. Good evening, Disney nerd. Yay. I don't know how to crochet, so I'm very jealous at this moment. So she is, there was a pretrial hearing that took place last week. I think it was last week. Or it might have been earlier this week. Now that I think about it, I think it was Monday this week. The weeks are starting to run together for me. She was indeed, they've decided that the trial is going to start January 5th. January 5th. It's like 2 weeks away or around that. It's close. What's today? 2.5-ish weeks. So, yeah, this has been going on, Kelly. This has been going on for a hot second, this particular case, and they're wanting to speed it along. She is being tried as an adult, even though she was 17 at the time of the offense. So we're going to do, I mean, do we ever really, Disney nerd, do we ever really stop learning? Maybe the day that we leave this planet is when we stop learning. So we're going to go back in time with Kristen and James Brock to 2021. In June of 2021, there was a public Facebook exchange between Kristen, which is Sarah Grace Patrick's mother, and Sarah. And why doesn't it show this on my screen? Let me add this to the screen. I don't know why it has to be complicated. I have an easy button. I never get to use it anymore. Never get to use the easy button. All right. Ooh, that is super tiny. All right. Now I can't see the top of it. Okay. Donnie, this is Sarah's mother who is posting on June 20th, 2021. Donnie, I'm coming to get you, love. I know you are so unhappy there. I hear you, and I'm doing everything I can to make it happen. I promise you that, son, your father can't beat you anymore. Sarah then responds, oh, go away. Kristen, this is her mom. Kristen, you are a grown, sorry. You are a grown woman, and this is the child that you put through the dirt just to make yourself happy. Commenting on my post and posting this is never going to make me want to go to your house again and shows how immature you are. Respectfully, grow up. And then she says more. And this is all in capitals, so you know this is like shouting. The only one that beat us was the ex-stepdad you got with and had no time to realize it because you were out dealing. Daddy has never laid a hand on me, and you need to stop brainwashing Donnie, and it doesn't work anymore with me. And then Mama responded, Sarah, maybe you need to call me because we need some therapy. For real. Sad this is the only way you talk to your mom. Yikes. So, kind of heated there. Doesn't look like the happiest of relationships. Would you all agree with me? It's kind of tempestuous at the very least. So that was in June of 2021. We proceed on to August of 2022. So an entire year has now progressed. And Sarah Grace Patrick is recognized as the difference maker of the month. And it's going to do the same thing again, but that's okay. I can just keep sharing my different screens here. We'll just do a little flippity flip. And here she is. Here is Sarah Grace Patrick. This month's difference maker is Sarah Grace Patrick. Sarah Grace is a huge help in the children's ministry. She's always willing to lend a helping hand to a child in need. We love you, Sarah Grace. Now, I want you to take a good gander at this face here. This face right here. Because that looks way different than some of the things you are going to see. So she is just having a lovely time, and she's the difference maker of the month. That's a good thing. I find nothing bad about that. And then that was on the 7th of August. And then we go to the 21st of August. And on the 21st of August, there's an incident that leads to an arrest and a protective order being filed. And I should have done this before. We're going to read the synopsis here, but then that source is the actual protective order filing and arrest record. Kristen Nolan Patrick allegedly attempted to run over James Matthew Brock while he was standing inside a barn. Yikes. One minor child was in the back seat of the vehicle during the incident, and the second minor child witnessed the event. Kristen was arrested on charges of criminal damage to property in the first degree and 2 counts of cruelty to children in the third degree. James Brock alleged a history of physical abuse, including being slapped, pushed, shoved, threatened, having property damaged, interference with the 911 call, and harassment through text and social media. This doesn't sound good at all. The very next day, that was on the 21st, the very next day, a family violence warrant is issued, charging Kristen with criminal damage to property in the first degree and cruelty to children in the third degree. The warrant includes the allegation that a child was inside the vehicle during the attempted assault and second child witnessed the event. I do not believe in this situation that Sarah was the one that witnessed the event. My understanding is it was a different child. 2 days after that, there is an ex parte emergency protective order granted. James Brock petitioned the court for an emergency protective order. The Superior Court of Carroll County found probable cause that acts of family violence occurred and may continue. The court ordered the following. Kristen was immediately restrained from harassing, harming, threatening, or contacting James Brock or the minor children in any form. Kristen was restrained from approaching within 500 yards of the petitioner and the children. The court scheduled a show cause hearing for September 14th, 2022. James Brock was awarded temporary custody of minor child Jaylee Brock. Kristen was ordered to vacate the family residence at 1531 Tyus Carrollton Road and surrender all keys and security devices to law enforcement for transfer to the petitioner. Kristen was prohibited from approaching, surveilling, or contacting the petitioner at any location. And then the day after that, there's a petition for a 12-month protective order that was filed. James Brock filed a formal petition for a long-term family violence protective order. The petition restated and expanded allegations. Kristen attempted to run over James Brock with a minor child in the vehicle and another child witnessing the incident. Allegations of past physical abuse, including slapping, pushing, threats, property destruction, harassment, and interference with a 911 call. Petitioner described reasonable fear for his safety and the safety of the minor children. Requested relief included temporary and exclusive possession of the family home. So she's booted. See you later, alligator. prohibition on Kristen contacting or approaching James or the children, temporary sole legal and physical custody of the minor child, orders preventing Kristen from interfering with utilities, destroying property, or removing property from the jurisdiction. The court was asked to schedule a hearing within 30 days and to issue a 12-month protective order. And we see September 14th. This is when they went to court. Look what happened. James Brock filed a petition requesting dismissal of the protective order. Time to hydrate, everybody. So not even a month later, he's decided, I'm going to bounce on this. Hey, George Elizabeth. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It says here, hi, y'all. This is a case in my state. I'm not sure of what happened with the young girl, but geez, not a healthy home life. I completely agree. I do think there's more to the story. I'm very anxious to see the digital evidence. So on September 30th, Kristen Brock announces her breakup with James Brock. So he dismisses the charges and she breaks up with him. Kristen Brock made a public Facebook post stating that she and James Brock were no longer together and were not on good terms. Hey, me and James are not together, not even friends. I don't really know him at all. I'm ashamed and hurt and embarrassed. Never again will you bring filth to my life. You play people like a fiddle, just not me anymore. Karma will be your king, King Brock, LMAO. So that is the end, well, almost the last quarter of 2022. And then we had an entire year goes by. Now, I do happen to know from some of the research that I was doing, and it may come up in maybe one of the videos that we end up watching, there does appear that there were some substance abuse issues for a period of time with both Kristen and James Brock. And that would explain a lot of the violence, a lot of the anger issues. So I am not excusing it. I am merely stating that that could be an explanation. So now we go all the way to early 2024. And the Brock household includes James Brock. He is the stepfather in his 40s. He's suffering from serious heart failure and using an LVAD device to keep his heart functioning. I do not know what that is, but it sounds serious. And it sounds like something that he has to be connected to in order to stay alive. Similar, I'm thinking pacemaker-ish in my mind, but I don't know at all. I am certainly not a medical professional. Kristen is 41 and described as a caring, involved parent, handling the majority of household responsibilities. And then, of course, Sarah is attending high school. She's active online, and the 5-year-old half-sister is also living in the same home. James undergoes multiple heart procedures and is reportedly on a transplant list. His health placed significant pressure on the household. I can only imagine. And then Kristen is the primary caregiver for both James and the children. And then Kristen and James get married. Donnie is Sarah's biological father. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Donnie. No. Dad's name is something else. Donnie is a sibling of Sarah's with her biological father. Yes. Thank you, Bo Bloomer. I think I said that right. So yes, a sibling. Full sibling, not half sibling. Sarah works at Pelicans Snowballs in Carrollton, Georgia. And in mid to late 2024, unconfirmed accounts from people close to the family suggest increased tension between Sarah and her parents. especially as Sarah enters age 16. Yes. Thank you, Bo Bloomer. Danielle is Sarah's father. I was thinking it was a similar name, but not the same. According to those who knew the family, Sarah becomes more active on TikTok and begins sharing vague, emotional, or cryptic content. Sarah reportedly struggles with boundaries. According to social media acquaintances, a few family friends describe her as being distant or increasingly oppositional toward her mother. Kristen allegedly confides in at least one friend that she is stressed at home dealing with both James' medical issues and conflict with Sarah. There is no known record of police involvement or CPS investigations prior to the murder. The family maintained a low public profile. Now we're in December 2024, January 2025. It's getting very close to the incident time. Sarah posts emotionally charged videos on TikTok referencing trauma, instability, or loss, some of which are later deleted. According to a now deleted post from a peer, Sarah references her parents dying in vague, unsettling language. These posts do not appear to have been flagged or reported at the time. Around this time, Kristen allegedly tells a friend that Sarah has become harder to reach emotionally, though she still doesn't express fear. In the 2 weeks leading up to the murder, we're February 1st to the 19th. In the 2 weeks leading up to the murders, Sarah continues posting on social media. She allegedly speaks with at least one person later revealed to be TikTok creator Kelly Brown and hints at emotional distress at home. There are no public signs of an imminent threat. James LVAD is reportedly functioning, though he continues to experience medical complications. Kristen remains the primary caretaker. And now we're on the evening of the incident, February 19th. Sarah, Kristen, James, and the 5-year-old sister are all reportedly home. According to Sarah's later statement to Kelly Brown, she hears James' LVAD alarm 10 to 20 minutes before going to bed, but claims it was faint and masked by other noise. No known 911 calls or signs of struggle are reported prior to the next morning. The next morning, on February 20th, a 6-year-old half-sister discovers the bodies of Kristen and James Brock, both shot in bed at their Tyus home near Carrollton, Georgia. Shortly after, 16-year-old Sarah calls 911 to report her sister finding their parents. That is on the 20th. The very next day, update from Carroll County Sheriff's Office. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office is actively investigating a double homicide. The victims, who were located deceased by apparent gunshot wounds, were located in the morning hours of February 20th, and they have been identified as James and Kristen Brock. Investigators processed the scene throughout the day yesterday and will continue their work today. They are actively following up on leads and have conducted numerous interviews as part of the investigation. Deputies will be canvassing the neighborhood again today. If you saw anything suspicious or have any information related to these homicides, please contact investigator TJ Repetto or email TJ Repetto. At this time, driver's license photos have been obtained of the victims. And then, of course, we urge anyone with relevant information. Oh, yes, Georgia Elizabeth. Yes. Everything about her behavior after their deaths is what is suspicious to me. It's a little bit Brian Walshy for me. It's got the same feeling to it. So on February 22nd, a GoFundMe was created on behalf of Dennis Nolan for the children of Kristen and James Brock. The fundraiser states that Kristen and James were found dead on Thursday morning from gunshot wounds and notes that their children were left behind. The page explains that the purpose of the fundraiser is to raise money for the children and to assist with any additional expenses. The family also asks the public to keep them in their prayers. Fast forward 5 days, Kristen Patrick's charges on cruelty to children is dismissed due to her death. Well, thankfully. And now we hit March 1st. March 1st is when little Miss Sarah decides she's going to start posting emotional TikToks grieving her parents, including a post on March 1st referencing the tragedy and forecasting grief over the next year. These grief videos, viewed with suspicion by investigators, are later connected to her active TikTok account, which has since been removed. Also, what a coinkydink. March 8th, this is what you'd be talking about, George Elizabeth. Sarah delivers a public eulogy for her parents at Catalyst Church in Carrollton. The tearful yet scripted tone of the speech, including the word sorry, draws scrutiny from law enforcement and family members. Yeah. It's odd. I have not seen the entirety of it. I've seen clips of it, and it's odd. Rachel Prince, what about the 911 call from the dispatcher? I have not stumbled upon that yet, but we still may. And honestly, at this point, we're so close to trial, we're going to hear all of it anyway. Yeah, the sorry. And what is this? Kim Sarah's stepdad sister told Sarah to go online and ask for help to post about it. Then they use that against her. Well, we'll see. We'll see if that's what the truth is. So now we're the day after the eulogy day. Sarah Grace posted a message under her father's account. It says, "It's Sarah. I post a lot of TikToks about my mom, and my username is sgrace04282. They're emotional, but just know I'm okay and I have a good support system." Okay. And then April 24th, she graduates from high school. And on May 20th, they have the graduation ceremony. June 3rd is when she reaches out to the true crime influencer, allegedly, reportedly, asking them to look up Brock Case and suggesting media coverage. Sarah's ex-boyfriend, Jackson Spradlin, was arrested on charges not related to Sarah's crime. And I see some yeah, I don't know the facts other than what we're going through right here. So anything that anyone else may know in the chat outside of what the facts and the documents reveal in this case is really just speculation at this point. So, yeah, I mean, we're not going to have arguing in the chat. So if that's what you're interested in doing, you need to take that offline for me. Then we proceed to July 7th. Sarah was interviewed by the Carroll County Sheriff regarding her involvement. After the interview, Sarah went to Alabama. On the very next day, after a months-long investigation, gathering mountains of physical and digital evidence with assistance from the FBI and Georgia Bureau of Investigation, an arrest warrant is issued. Sarah, now 17, voluntarily turns herself in, accompanied by her biological father, to Carroll County Jail. Sorry. Had a squirrel moment there. July 9th through the 11th, Sarah is formally charged as an adult with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. Authorities confirm there were no signs of forced entry and nothing appears stolen. The motive remains unknown and additional arrests are not ruled out. Sarah is being held in custody, either with bail or without bond, reported variably. Again, one of those things that is not clear. Sarah's father, Danielle Patrick, released a statement on Facebook. "My daughter is 100% innocent. If you want to talk to anybody about me and my daughter's relationship, come straight to me. I'm not hiding. I'm going to work and doing all the normal things that I have to do to support my son. Nobody knows my pain, but I choose to deal with it the way that I have to. I don't want all of the attention like everybody else. February 21st, I had to come home and tell my son that his mother and his stepfather were dead. It was the hardest thing I have ever had to do. Oh, poor Danielle. It is just awful. What a horrible position to be in as a parent. Can you imagine? Oh. Friends and family organized the Give, Send, Go campaign for the legal bills. And this was a statement that was released on the 14th of August. On behalf of Danielle Patrick, I'd like to start by saying, let's support this family in this very difficult time. Sarah Grace Patrick, at just 16 years old, lost her mother and stepfather in a very horrific way. Now, 5 months after their murders, Sarah, at just 17 years old, is behind bars being accused. The family is in need of hiring a defense attorney for Sarah. This is her whole life we are talking about. Sarah is a very sweet young lady. To hear it from anyone who has ever actually known her is just heartbreaking to know what she is going through now. Please find it in your heart to even send $5 and a prayer. Thank you. And truly, if the evidence does not suggest that she is responsible for their deaths, that's awful. That is truly, truly awful. And you all know we're the jurors. We're waiting to get all the information, waiting to find out what's happening in the case. So hard to tell at this point. We have some legal documents with allegations and charges, but outside of that, we don't really have a whole lot. So we're just kind of trucking along here. On August 19th, an emotional bond hearing takes place where family members are divided on whether Patrick should be released. Prosecutors add charges of malice murder and weapons charges. A judge denies bond, citing her as a potential flight risk and danger to witnesses. That's a little telling to me. The arraignment is scheduled on September 22nd, and on November 25th, a Carroll County Superior Court judge denies the defense attorney's request for a change of venue and a continuance of the trial. So it's going to stay right there in Carroll County. On December 11th, that was the day. So it was last week. There was a hearing, and of course, they continued to hold that trial date of January 5th, 2026. So, Bo, we're a jury here, and I haven't seen your name before. And so we all here keep an open mind until the evidence comes in. And so we also try not to throw allegations that we are just feelings that we have. And while I respect how you feel, there's a lot for us to go over before we get to the point that we convict her or I don't think any of us here believes a jury has been tainted. You have to wait until you see what the evidence actually is. And this is encouraging. If the GBI did do a thorough case and you've got a good judge, like the judge that was in the Brian Walsh trial, that was a good judge. If you can have a good judge like that, then awesome. And Rachel Prince, if a grand jury says these are the charges, does that mean they saw the evidence? Good question. So when a district attorney's office brings a case to the grand jury, they're only hearing one side of the story. And primarily that side of the story is heavy on the evidence that would support charges being filed. That's why you hear all the time that people say you can indict a ham sandwich, because the threshold is very, very low in order to come back with what is called a true bill from a grand jury decision. Many years ago, you all may have, some of you may remember, maybe you don't. John Benet Ramsey, John and Patsy Ramsey were both presented in front of a grand jury as far as the evidence supporting an indictment and charges being made against the two of them. That grand jury in Boulder, Colorado came back with a true bill to proceed with charges against John and Patsy. and the district attorney's office chose not to proceed. So that can happen too. But yes, if a grand jury is saying, coming back with a true bill, then they are likely seeing there's enough evidence for it to go to trial. Alrighty, so that's our little rundown so far, but we got more. I've got more. So let me get us over to this TikTok, or not TikTok video. This is a YouTube video that is a little bit of a summary on the case and less of what I want you to watch. It's not so much about what they're talking about, while that's fine. It's more, I want you to see the images that are presented in this particular little ditty. Bear with me. Okay. I think I've got it set up. Alrighty.
This teenage girl allegedly killed her parents in a case that had gone unsolved for months. That is until this week. Her parents
She looks way different, doesn't she, y'all?
were found shot dead inside their home in February. Their 6-year-old daughter found them. But you will not believe the next part. We sure couldn't. The alleged teen killer spoke at the funeral for her parents at their church.
Although there's nothing we can do to bring them back, we still have control over how we treat people.
And then let's talk about the TikTok account that we found. Just wait until I show you what she said about her family and this case on social media. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. I will tell you, this story made our jaws drop when police in Georgia this week announced they had made an arrest in the case of a murdered couple that had gone unsolved since February. Here's a picture of that couple, James and Kristen Brock. They lived in Carrollton, Georgia. It's a little more than an hour's drive south of Atlanta. This couple, they were beloved members of their community, devoted churchgoers, and they also had a 6-year-old daughter together. In fact, James posted this on Facebook on February 19th, saying, quote, "When I'm down and don't feel good, I find comfort in this little girl." Police say he was murdered within the next 24 hours of that post. Reportedly, it was that little girl, who was 5 at the time, who found him and her mom, Kristen, after they had been shot. It was on February 20th that law enforcement responded to this home in Carrollton and found the Brocks shot. They were both in their bed. This case went unsolved for months. Kristen's dad, in the days after the murders, offered $5,000 for information that would lead police to the killer. He told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that these murders, whoever did them, quote, was cold-blooded. This week, police announced that they know who the killer is, and it was someone that he knew very well.
Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault.
Here's the mugshot of the alleged killer, Sarah Grace Patrick.
She looks like she's 12.
The mugshot was given to us by the Carroll County Sheriff. Sarah Grace was 16 years old at the time that she allegedly shot and killed her mom and stepdad. And she was very active on social media, and it is shocking what I'm about to show you. Here are pictures that we found on her social media with her boyfriend, and wow, when I talk about social media, that is a shocking part of this story. I'll get more to that in just a moment. Here's what we know about Sarah Grace. According to law enforcement, she lived in the home at the time of the murders, but had moved around with different family members within the last couple of years. But on the night of the Brock's murders, she was the one who called 911. I actually saw someone comment on social media that it was suspicious after gunshots went off in the house that it was the 5-year-old who would find their parents dead and then reportedly have to alert the teenager inside the home that something was wrong. Sarah Grace was 16 years old at the time that law enforcement say she killed her mom and stepdad. She's now 17. In cases like this, typically we search through TruthFinder to see if the suspect has any previous charges.
Sir, we're not doing your commercial. So give me a minute. I'm going to get us past the commercial. And honestly, there isn't a whole ton more past this point. I really want you to see the other interview that I have pulled up. And I see your comment, Rachel Prince. Again, we don't know that. We only know this is some of the information that is being released. Rachel Prince is saying the picture of her crying on TikTok was sent to a boyfriend before her parents were killed. Just an FYI. I don't know that. As a juror, we have not gone to trial. We don't know that. We only know some basics, some basic timeline facts of things that can be corroborated. You all know I love when people say that word correctly. And so it is difficult for us at this point to really kind of form any sort of an opinion on it, except that there must have been enough evidence for them to feel that they could take this to trial. Outside of that, we're kind of waiting to see where this is going to unfold. I'm going to go.
Expel somebody.
Sorry about that. I want to go back. This is a longer video. And I want to say this individual, the gentleman that is speaking in this video, is Sarah's grandfather. I think they get into this. And all of my jurors out there, we have to have a critical eye. We have to look both ways. You know, we all watched Karen Reed. I hope you all watched the Alec Baldwin trial, because that went off the rails like that. So we got to keep an open eye on things. Not all cases go smoothly like Brian Walsh. Oh, let me get this on the screen here so you all can see. All right. This is about 23 minutes long. We'll see how quickly we can get through this. So,
I mean, let's face it took them 4 months to arrest her. You know, the time lag. If they had anything of substance that came about from the initial investigation, they would have arrested her immediately.
We just spoke with the grandfather of Sarah Grace Patrick. He's continuing to stand by the 17-year-old who's accused of killing her mom and stepdad inside their Georgia home in February. But he also shed some light on what he thinks detectives may have in their case against his granddaughter.
Okay, they claim that she did some internet searches for how to commit murder or something of that nature, and they claim they have that.
Why he is claiming that is not something that would tie his granddaughter to the murders of James and Kristen Brock. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. To this point, law enforcement in Carroll County, Georgia, have been pretty quiet when it comes to explaining what makes up the, quote, mountain of evidence they have against Sarah Grace Patrick. But we did learn some new details that we have not heard before in our interview with Sarah Grace's grandfather. Here's video of Sarah Grace Patrick in court yesterday. For grandfather's name is Dennis Nolan. He lost his daughter, Kristen, in this shooting. It is important to remember that. Dennis.
So just to reiterate, this gentleman that's going to be speaking is this man in the mint colored shirt. And this is Kristen's father. So obviously it is Sarah's grandfather, but it is on her maternal side.
This was also the father-in-law of James Brock. This was a blended family that has certainly been divided since Sarah Grace Patrick's arrest. Dennis was in court for the bond hearing yesterday, and I spoke to him earlier today. What is your reaction to the new charges that Sarah Grace Patrick's now facing? I know she's facing those 2 counts of malice murder.
I haven't talked to the attorney about that because that came up, you know, the grand jury met after we left and came up with those charges. I think they're just a formality. It doesn't reflect anything else other than that. It's like they're saying, commission of a crime with a gun, the aggravated assault. Is that we questioned the DA about that after the hearing, and they said it's just a matter of law, because if you hold a gun to someone, that's an assault. You pull the trigger and it's murder. So you have two charges right there. And it's just, like I said, it's just more of a formality than anything else. And they're trying to come up with as many charges as possible. It's just a question. And I'm going to tell you this, if this thing goes to trial, it's going to be interesting, because some things surfaced yesterday after the hearing. People are coming out of the woodwork, so to speak, that have information that I'm turning over to the sheriff's department.
Y'all, where have we heard that recently? We just watched a week and a half of Tennessee versus Zachary Adams, and the Bobo family was turning over all kinds of evidence, traipsing all over 2 or 3 counties with information and supposed evidence. You got to be careful with that. You just have to be careful. I know everybody wants to help, but don't be turning it over to the grandfather of this alleged suspect.
Because, as you know, the prosecution.
Bo, I will respectfully disagree. They don't know when it was Googled. That is absolutely preposterous. Whatever the digital evidence is, they will know exactly when it was Googled and what was Googled.
The prosecutors don't do any investigation. You have to leave that up to the sheriff's department. So, there were a lot of information acquired yesterday about James' background and some of the things going on in that house that I wasn't aware of just prior to the murder. And it didn't have a whole lot to do with Sarah Grace. Matter of fact, it had nothing to do with her.
In our interview, Dennis said that James and Kristen were recently involved in illegal drug activity up until the time of their deaths. The family of James Brock denies that. We did look into the criminal history of James and Kristen Brock.
People, though, they claim they have investigated all the possible suspects. And, prior to yesterday's hearing, they were saying that there was probably going to be additional arrests made. But after the hearing, they said they pretty much concluded all their investigation.
Now, Dennis and Sarah Grace's biological father, DJ, who is also standing by the teenager, have said they believe law enforcement did not do enough to see if someone else was involved in the murders of James and Kristen and whether their past had something to do with their murders. Now, we want to be forward and clear and tell you what we know about the past of James and Kristen Brock. And it's difficult because they're not here to talk about their pasts, but we did pull their records, and this is what those records show. We saw for James, there was a 2017 arrest related to drug possession, and he was given probation for that. He was also found guilty related to a 2018 arrest for possession of methamphetamine and marijuana, theft by receiving, and obstruction of a police officer. Kristen's record shows an arrest on the same day, April 29th, 2018, as James for meth possession and theft by receiving, which she was not prosecuted for. She was sentenced to drug programs for marijuana possession and possession of a drug object that was related to the 2018 arrest. We did find in 2022, James filed a temporary protective order against Kristen, accusing her of domestic abuse. That was then withdrawn later that year. We found in 2022, Kristen Brock was arrested. She was charged with first-degree criminal damage to property plus felony and misdemeanor cruelty to children charges. That case, according to online court records, was still active at the time of her death. Yesterday, during the bond hearing, James's sister, Kimberly Bowling, gave very emotional testimony, and she said that the Brocks had turned their lives around. They were born-again Christians, and we haven't found any criminal charges for the two of them since 2022.
Okay, couple things. Yes, her trial is really going to start on January 5th. And the reason I know this is because the last hearing they had last week, all parties involved agreed they were ready to go to trial. So it does seem very fast. But if you've got a DA's office and a prosecutor that is ready to go, it is every defendant's right to a speedy trial. And that is exactly what is happening here. And secondly, Rachel Prince, I still feel that someone else was involved. You can absolutely feel that way. That is perfectly fine. At this point, we're all just kind of taking it all in and trying to figure out what might be proposed or what evidence might come forward in the actual trial. So, but once we start getting evidence, we as jurors, we can't base it on feelings. I do not know, Kelly, whether she has a public defender or hired. I would say hired because they had the give, send, go for her defense fund. So that would lead me to believe they had some means. Oh, no, Kelly is telling other Kelly, Kel-I-E, I think, that she has a public defender. Okay. Let me continue.
Clear who else detectives investigated related to the Brocks murders over the 4 months that this case was unsolved. I asked, because I know you went and spoke to
I want to hear more from Grandpa.
The prosecutor after the bond hearing yesterday. Would
Yes.
you say after that, I mean, you're not expecting any more arrests from what they told you in the case?
No, they're not releasing any of the evidence that they have in the case. And they said, they were saying, well, we'll come out in the trial. But of course, we have discovery, we filed for discovery. And, they have technically between 30 and 90 days to turn that discovery over to the attorney, which means all the evidence that they have for the trial. They got to give her time to work through that evidence.
There's a certificate of completion. There was a lot of this. We all heard a lot of this in the motions in limine hearing, pretrial hearings.
But they're holding tight on that, and that really bothers me because they were trying very hard to get Sarah to admit guilt, and they threw a whole bunch of evidence in her face just prior to the warrant, and we know what that was because DJ was present for that interrogation. And it wasn't anything, there was nothing there of substance. It was all, it was photographs of the scene, and they claim they have found gun residue on something that they found of Sarah's, and, but it wasn't conclusive. I mean, let's face it, it took them 4 months to arrest her. The time lag. If they had anything of substance that
oh, bless your heart,
came about from the initial investigation, they would have arrested her immediately.
Oh, I know you love your granddaughter,
because
but
they were under pressure to do something, to come up with a suspect.
What piece of evidence, I mean, you talk about the gun residue, and I know they had, like they said, I remember like kind of the line that everybody keeps coming back to from that news conference was they had a quote mountain of evidence against Sarah Grace Patrick. And they have kept a lot tight to the vest, it seems, to anybody that they've spoken to. Is there any, like, from what you've seen, I mean, what makes up that like what they think they have? Like, what makes up the mountain of evidence?
Well, of course, I haven't seen it, so I don't know for sure. But what I've summarized from what people have told me is that their digital evidence was searches that Sarah had done on her phone having to do with murdering your parents.
Yikes.
Okay, they claim that she did some internet searches for how to commit murder or something of that nature.
That's not good.
But she didn't realize it was gunfire that woke her up, and I think you can understand that. You know, and she was a little bit dazed, and I guess she felt like she needed to call her boyfriend and see if he was awake at that hour. You know, which I don't find that unusual. So they're holding that against her. But they did gun residue tests against her on her immediately the next day, or the morning after the shooting, and they all came back negative.
That's not surprising.
And I know they did her clothing, and it came back negative.
That's not surprising to me either.
Again, this 4-month lag of having her arrested and saying they have a mountain of evidence that's digital. It has to do with her internet searches. And as far as I know, that's pretty much it.
But they found like some kind of gun residue on like something she owns?
Yeah, they said they found a glove, some kind of glove that had a little bit of gun residue on it, hidden in her closet. I don't know much about that, what type of glove or anything else. I mean, that's about it. Again, that was something that was found early on because like I said, they tore the house up. And
do you all think they would do DNA testing on that glove to find out whose DNA is on it? Just a question. I'm just trying to have an open mind, but a critical eye also. And Kelly, you were absolutely right. That's why my heart goes out to this man. I understand his perspective. This is his granddaughter. No one wants to think that their loved one could do something like this. Do you think anyone in Rob Reiner's family wants to believe that their son, Nick, would do what he's being accused of doing? No, no one wants to believe that. So it's really hard. Your brain plays tricks. And so I don't find him to be saying what he's saying maliciously or anything like that. He's just like, how is this even my life right now?
And they found that in their search of the house. And you would think that if that was enough of incriminating evidence, they would have arrested her at that time. Yeah, I think the timing of the arrest says a whole lot to what they have, or what they don't have. But I don't think they have anything that puts the gun in her hand.
Okay, everybody. Did you all watch Brian Walsh? Let me know if you watched Brian Walsh, because we don't even know how Anna Walsh was red-rummed. And we also don't really know what the motive may have been. This does not preclude me from believing that she was involved in some way. And you don't have to have motive. It's nice, but you do not have to have motive.
I don't know if I shared this with you, but they made the statement even in the initial press conference about no sign of forced entry.
Oh, this is very important. I want you all to pay close attention. If you're listening in your car or something like that, then you just have to go back and listen to it. We're an hour and 6 minutes in approximately. So, because this is very important to me and I'm anxious to see what all of you in the chat have to say.
I know when I went to, when they released the house to me, and I was trying to secure the house and well, let me back up a little bit. Sarah did tell the investigators that when she went into the room initially, she said the room was ice cold. And this was, of course, in February, it was cold. And she realized it was cold because the back door was open. There was a back door that they had attached to their bedroom. Right off their bedroom was a little porch. And this door opened up into that porch. And Sarah told them that door, she found that door open. And they said there was no sign of forced entry. When I went to secure the house, the lock on that door was broken. And I didn't really think a whole lot of it at the time. And
Really?
DJ took a picture of that back door and that lock the day that we had access to the house. And I have it right here. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but directly right here, right there, you see this mark right here? That's a crowbar mark that.
Okay, I'm going to pause it here because I want you all to take a look at this picture. I know I have a thought in my mind, but I don't want to taint all of you other jurors with what I'm thinking. Tell me what you think this all looks like in this particular spot that you probably can't see my cursor. This particular spot right here that he is pointing out. Tell me what you think it looks like to you. And I'll give just a minute or so. I know that you all have a delay from when I talk until when I see your chat comments. And Kel IE, ding, 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 ding. That's exactly what I thought when I looked at it. I was like, well, wait a minute. So Kel IE is saying it's the lockbox swinging. That's exactly what it looks like to me. I don't know what's on the back side of the lockbox, but it appears to me, since there are these marks where it's gone back and forth, that's not compelling evidence to me that someone broke in. Just so we're clear. And yes, juice box. Why is there a lockbox? What are we doing? What are we doing? I don't know. I got questions.
You know, there's clearly signs of forced entry. Now, the other thing that surprises me, when I look at this photograph, you know, the police, of course, they should have dusted everything for prints. And I know from past experience, if they dust for prints, it leaves a little bit of a mess. They use a black dust. There was none of this on this door. So they didn't even dust this door for prints, which I think is the most obvious sign of forced entry I have ever seen. If you
Bless your heart.
Bless
your heart.
I see that. That mark there on the door.
This lock right here was broken. Like someone took it and gave it maybe a wrench and twisted it and because the insides were all twisted up inside. I had to replace that lock. That's a replacement lock that I put on there to secure the house. And like I said, I hadn't thought twice, but DJ saw this and took this picture of that door. So, I don't know the investigators, how good a job they did.
We don't know a potential motive in this case. I did ask Dennis about something that prosecutors brought up multiple times at the bond hearing. There were questions about whether Sarah Grace Patrick went to an alternative high school. I know during the hearing, the prosecutors, like a couple of times, they asked some of the defense's witnesses about an alternative school that Sarah Grace Patrick went to. I know the first time we spoke, you didn't know of any like mental health issues that she had, you told me. What is this alternative school that they were asking about?
Well, I know the last one she was in, I did know about, and the school expelled her. And when the school expels somebody here,
why was she expelled?
They make them go to this alternative school.
Why was she expelled from school?
And I know she was going to that alternative school and she was doing quite well.
Y'all, maybe I'm just a little bit of a snowflake when it comes to stuff like this, but is it common for a teenager in this day and age to be expelled from a school and then they have to be sent to another school? Am I out of touch? I mean, I'm 56 years old. So is that a super common thing to be expelled? Oh, Kelly, you're saying it is. Because, I mean, when I was a kid growing up, someone getting expelled from school was like, holy smokes, they must have like threatened a teacher's life or were violent with someone else. And yes, KS Granny, I know it happens. Oh, see, this is totally different. Tylenol. Oh, yes, I do remember the Tylenol thing with my son. Gotcha. Okay. Because I watched this and my mind went to a completely different place. But also remember, y'all, if you have someone like me on the jury, that's where I'm going to be going in my mind and in my head. Is I'm going to be thinking there were some sort of behavior issues. So, yeah.
And she was taking it very seriously, and she graduated early from that. And but that's how that transpired. That she was expelled from school because of that drug incident. And you see, the thing is that James and Kristen were allowing her to smoke marijuana. I mean, I caught them in my house doing it. James and Kristen and Sarah together.
What?
Which I was very upset about. But they did that on a regular basis. And
oh my!
One thing Sarah kept asking the day after the murder, well, did they find the marijuana? Did they find the marijuana? And I'm thinking, what? Why is she so interested in this?
Oh, what a horrible environment!
Said, well, there was a lot of marijuana laying on the table or something. And she felt like whoever committed the crime had grabbed that batch of marijuana that was there. And later on, I think it was Sarah that told me that they found it behind the nightstand or something. It had ended up in their bedroom.
We don't know if there were any drugs in the house the night of the murders. Dennis says that law enforcement told him that Sarah Grace is the only suspect who could have committed the murders, which he disagrees with. For the bond hearing yesterday, you had, I know, the pastor of the local church. He made a witness impact statement to some family friends. But right. you and DJ did not make statements as being kind of the closest family members, it seems, to Sarah Grace, who were in her corner here. Why did you not make a witness impact statement?
Well, that was a character They wanted character witnesses. I felt, along with even the attorney, felt the same way, that anything coming from an immediate family member is basically useless. I mean, of course we're going to give her a great character reference, and we're not going to say anything bad about Kara, and in that hearing, that the best thing we could do was have it come from outside the family would be more important than how the family feels about Sarah.
And critical true crime. I have a friend I should say an acquaintance when I lived in Tennessee. Her son was put into an alternative school, and he did more than thrive. He was so successful. It was such a fantastic environment for him. So yes, I completely understand that certain individuals do better in different types of environments. And there's absolutely positively nothing wrong with that. And I also saw some comments here about not having doors locked. Y'all, I can tell you, in the Demeanor household, when we lived in Tennessee, we lived out in I shouldn't say the sticks. We lived out in the country, but it was a subdivision. We never locked our doors. Never. Ever.
But that was our thinking on that. And of course we could have gone up there and given a great character witness for her, but coming from her grandfather or from her father, it just seems like useless, as far as if I was a judge looking at it.
Just lastly for me, Dennis, and I know that you have been in your granddaughter's corner, and no matter what people think, to have a family member in the position she is, and then for you as a family member trying to figure out what to do going forward, and you believe and have said that you believe that she's innocent, and there's still a lot of evidence to come out that apparently prosecutors say that they have. I mean, is there anything at this point that could change your mind when it comes to Sarah Grace's innocence heading into this potential trial in January?
Well, I mean, I'd like to see evidence that, sort of, as I've always used the expression, put the gun in her hand.
I don't think you're going to get that.
I don't think there is that evidence. I don't think there's enough evidence. Everything I see is circumstantial. I think that a decent attorney could work their way through this in trial, and have when you have a jury of 12 people, all you got to do is reach one of them. And I think there's so much questionable things that I don't see anything that can't be disputed.
After deciding that Sarah Grace Patrick would not be granted bond yesterday, the judge set several dates in her case. The next time she is expected to be in court is September 22nd for an arraignment. The judge also set a potential trial date of January 5th. That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime.
Okay. So a couple things. I don't know anything about a documentary either. I won't be watching a documentary because the case is going to start in 2.5 weeks. So everything I want to know about the case, I am going to hear about in a courtroom. So won't be doing that. And also, I don't know anything about her father. Again, that'll just have to come out in the courtroom, if it does at all. After the case is over and has been decided by a jury, we can delve into other things. But at this point, I am not comfortable just scrolling through the internet, digging for information that it may be inaccurate. And if we are a true juror channel here, then we need to wait for the evidence to come in. I am only doing this evening so that we would have some reference going into her trial starting, so that we could follow along and have a clue as to what is happening. So, any other questions so far about Sarah Grace Patrick? And just a disclaimer, because I do see a lot more people chatting in the chat. I did remove, and I don't even know who it was. I removed a comment. I do not want any minor individuals' identities to be exposed on my YouTube channel. That's not why I'm here. It's not important to the case or for the case for us to know the names of children. So we won't do that. And also, you can disagree vehemently in my chat as long as you are respectful. No name calling, no ugliness. But we don't all have to agree. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with not agreeing. But let's be kind. Because remember, it doesn't cost a penny to do that. So, all right, y'all, you ready to get onto some maps for the Holly Bobo case? Because I got a Mac Daddy map that I got from DB. Y'all, I don't know if you know anything about DB's map, but I was going to use a different version, and I happened to be on with Catnut Williams earlier this evening. I was just watching her program because she had Dana on from Trial and Error podcast, which I am going to try to get also on my channel here. And you are all very welcome. Ms. Demeanor does not mess around when it comes to that kind of stuff. There's absolutely positively no need for it. It's ridiculous, some of the stuff that I see happen. So, but DB made this fantastic map. This map, y'all. I'm getting it all pulled up here. I asked him while I was on there. I say him. I honestly don't know if DB is male or female, so I shouldn't even make that assumption. And it is. Thank you, Critical True Crime. This map, y'all are going to be surprised. Let me get right into it. Okay. Now, what we are seeing, and I don't know, I'm not familiar with this particular, there we go. There we go. So this right here, let me get rid of these things here so we can see better too. First off, I'm going to zoom it way out because this is going to look familiar to you when I do this. Aha, does that look familiar to y'all? The little yellow circles. Do we remember this from the trial? This is where the sectors were. The southeastern sector, the southwestern sector, the northern sector of all these cell towers. Everybody following with me so far? So those are all listed here, just like they were on the map in the trial. I am going to zoom us into where this all began. This is where Holly was abducted. Now, I want to give you some reference because this is Terry Britt's house right there. That's the place. So, also on this map, you are going to see this here. That is where Holly's remains were located. And this is Victor Dinsmore's residence, his property right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more for you. The supposed old barn where they tried to say all of this took place, all of the graping of Holly took place, is in this area here. And you'll also see these little stars that are in red. That is where evidence was located. So I'm going to just open this up some so that you can see a little better. This is Shane Austin's house. And I am not It's not marked on here. I happen to know, if I'm looking at this map correctly, this is Adams Lane. So that this would be Zach Adams. Let me see if I can zoom in and clarify for sure. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that this is Adams Lane right here. Because it's right off of Yellow Springs. We heard a lot about Yellow Springs, didn't we? So this is where the receipt was recovered. This is another receipt that was recovered. I'm going to zoom us back out because, and I'm showing you all of this so that you get a really good reference on all of it, because I want you to see something that's, to me, a little ridiculous. Let me see if I can even locate it. Oh yeah, I can. Okay. So way over here, I think, let me, no, I'm sorry. Way over here. Do you see in the upper right corner here? That is where the riprap was. That's by the Tennessee River. We're going to go over there. Let's take a peeky weeky at this location. Supposedly, this is the place that they took her in the back of Zach's truck, wrapped in a farmhouse blanket, maybe quilt, don't know the colors of it, and leaned her up against the riprap, and then she made noises. And so then miraculously a gun appeared. And then that gun was used to shoot her in the back of the head. I want you to see how far away that location is compared to everything else. And I mean everything else. See all the little pins all over this map? All those pins represent stuff pertinent to this case. Absolutely preposterous that it's that far away. So let's talk about some of the other evidence that was located. Let's see how close that is. There's the Bobo residence. This is where the SIM card was located. Right here. It's hard to see in here. There's Am Farm that they talked about. There were security cameras that showed vehicles traveling on this particular road. Do we all remember that? This is where the cell phone was recovered. Let's continue on up here. Here's where the lunchbox was recovered. Ant Farms. Kelly, you heard Ant Farm. Am Farm. I think it stands for like American Pharmaceuticals or something, and everybody just calls it Am Farm. This is where the lunchbox was found. And I am going to, I'm guessing, I feel like this. Does everybody remember Horny Head Creek Road? I think it was Horny Head Creek Road. And also Gooch. Do we remember Gooch Creek Road? Something like that. I think that's what this location is here, where the lunchbox was found. And I want you to see, look what just came in view at the top of this map. Terry Britt's residence. Look at that. So if you aren't freaked out enough about this and what this looks like, because I still truly, firmly believe that she was abducted and taken right straight close up to the spot where her remains ultimately were found, which is in this area here. It's almost, I'm sorry, up here. It's almost due north of the Bobo residence. So I'm going to try to show you what is alleged to be the map that shows based on the cell phone pings where they believe the course of travel actually was. So let me get this pulled up here. I hope this is going to work. I have to do this a different way. So, yay! Sorry, it's not the greatest, but let me see if I can make it larger. No, I cannot. I had to snippet it from the screen. So what this is showing, we're going to start all the way down at the bottom of the map. I don't know if you can see my cursor at all. See where it says Henderson? We're going to start right where that first box is. It's pointing to a pinned location there. This is where Holly's phone was pinged at 11 a.m. in the morning. And then 5 minutes later, in the next box that you see up here, it says cell phone 816. Let me see if I can change this, make me littler. So the second box is 8:16 a.m. That is the approximate location of her cell phone at 8:16. So we're going to continue to travel along this area, and the phone doesn't move from this particular location up close to where I-40 is. You'll see there's a small box that says in area for 30 minutes, reaching CR 1096 section 1. I don't think you can see my cursor, but it's this one right here. And so I agree with what Dana has stated that he believes is what actually was going on is that's when the grape and the murder both occurred. And that's why her phone was there for as long as it was. So in this area here, because it doesn't look like it, but where this black blob is on the northern side of I-40, I don't know if you can see it here. And then it has a marker that says location of Holly Bobo's remains. That is where her remains were found. And the cell phone tower picked her cell phone up in that area after the 8:56, because she was in an area close to that from 8:26 to 8:56. Hey, Katie O'Keefe, thanks for joining us. And then 8:56, we start getting movement again. And the cell phone then pings at 9 o'clock on I-40, where that number 12 in yellow is. And then 2 minutes later, it pings at this 13 location. And then it comes down at 9:06. It's coming. Are you seeing this path, y'all? So that would be number 14 at 9:06, and then continues to travel until at 9:10. That looks like a fair distance to travel in 4 minutes time. They might have been boogieing pretty good. This number 15 is a ping at 9:10 of Holly's phone. Then there's another ping, 16, 17, 18, 19. Those were all pings. And look at where it ends. Gooch Creek Road. And that's where the lunchbox ended up being. So we know this particular route is, as I was watching the trial, this is almost identical to, in my mind, when I was looking at the map and moving it all around. This is what I thought I would be able to map out on the map. So let's see about going back. And I can tell you, you can't see in this map. Let me move. I'm looking for something very specific. So let me get this back over here. Well, Janet. So just about right above the 9 in this box down here, the Creek Gooch Road box, just above the 9, that's where Terry Britt's residence is. That's where he lived. So it's a nice loop and then heads right back home. And guess what? If that lunchbox or that cell phone, the last ping was at 9:25 at that particular location, you know, he headed back down the road to toss it at closer to the SIM card and toss the cell phone itself closer to Am Farm, which is further south than this particular area. And then he went home. So let's go back to DB's map here. Is it making more sense to everybody? Because when I started to look at this, I was like, oh. So here we are again, Terry Britt's house. Lunchbox location. That's Gooch Creek Road. That's where the lunchbox was located. So down here, that's where the cell phone was recovered. The further south, that's where the SIM card was located or recovered, which would have been very easy to just kind of toss out the window as you're driving, which I believe is exactly what he did with all of these items. I don't necessarily believe that he did it by fluke. I think he knew where Shane Austin's home was. And I mean, if you're going to get rid of stuff, may as well get rid of it in the right area. So all of these red circles with white stars in them, that's where evidence was recovered. And I'm just going back here. I mean, when you see an aerial view of the area, it makes a lot more sense when you see it. This is the church that they spent so much time talking about. That's just up the road from Shane's house. And I still think this is Adams Lane. It doesn't say that on there, but I think it is. And Juanita Hickerson's residence, we heard about that. Brian Vitt's residence, we heard about. And then let's go all the way over here. Looky here, Victor Dinsmore. So they just did a whole loop around all the people they thought could be pinned on. Made sure to leave her remains close enough to Mr. Dinsmore's house. I still think he's shady as all get out. Victor Dinsmore, that is. We're going to continue since I didn't have it blown up really well, so that you can see this is like a little shoot off road. And that's where her remains were recovered. It's hard to see here. Here you can see it better. This is the actual cell tower that they've talked about so much. So back here, it's a significant ways. The ginseng hunter is the one that located her remains, if we all remember correctly. So you leave there and you're going to head on back down the road. Head across I-40 here. And then you're going to head right past Victor Dinsmore's house, which is coming up over here. There's Victor's house. And then it curves around and we start heading south then. I mean, this is perfectly logical to me. And the timing of it, he could have, he talks about being home at 11 o'clock and all of that business with the bathtub and all of it. Do we all remember that bovine scatology testimony that he gave? I still think he could make that timeline. Now, the real question that I feel like is in everybody's mind, did Jan help? I actually don't think that's even a real question. My question is, how did Jan help? Terry said his favorite bar was along the road of I-40. OMG, it's got to be over there by where her remains were found along that stretch of I-40. I just realized. Yeah, so I don't know specifically, but there is something. It's hard to see in this because there's lots of trees in Tennessee. But this gun purchase location is Victor Dinsmore's house. But I also wonder, I don't see anything that might be a little bar. But you just never know. I mean, it could be a little dive place that I can't even hardly see on here. And that's true, Kelly. It might not be there anymore, but back in 2011, sure. Yeah. It is very suspicious. For me, looking at this, it just screams to me that Terry Britt had to have some sort of involvement in this. That is only my opinion. I base that opinion on the facts at hand and the fact that we know Shane Austin, Jason Autry, Dylan Adams, and Zach Adams are absolutely not involved in any of this. It just highlights it that much more. So something else I wanted to show here, and I hope we can see it on here. We may not be able to. Yeah. It does not show it on here. And it's because it's all grown over. But I had a map at one point, and behind the residence, behind the Bobo residence, there was a cutoff road that would take you right up here, which then you could take right straight to, this is that Five Forks, I think is what it was called. And that's what this is here. It doesn't show it on this map very well, but there was a cutoff that would take you to this little road. But lots and lots of trees there now. Not going to see it as easily. Because I'm hunting, but I don't see it. There was a different map. This is probably much more recent from Google Earth. So next on the docket, let's talk about what's going to be next on the docket with this particular case. Does that help everybody? It helped me tremendously seeing where everything was. I hope it was helpful. The next thing, I want us to watch Dylan Adams' testimony in the post-conviction relief hearings. That's a couple hours. So that's going to be the next thing on the docket for us to cover. Well, y'all tell me. We have three main things I want to make sure we cover. The first one is, and I don't care what order we do them in. I want you all to tell me what order we should do them in. One of them is Dylan's testimony in the post-conviction relief hearings. Another one is the audio of Terry Dykes's testimony in the post-conviction relief hearings. The third item is Jason Autry's, him recanting his entire testimony. And I think that's about an hour long. Terry Dykes is a couple hours. Dylan Adams is a couple hours. And so that's why I'm thinking maybe I'll make our Monday nights will be dedicated to the Bobo case or Zach Adams, however you want to look at it. And we will just go through those particular items each week. Then Wednesday, I'll still maintain Wine and Crime Wednesday. We'll cover some other case that is going to be going to trial, at trial, whatever the case may be. And if we don't have anything necessarily going on in that regard, we'll just do another Holly Bobo night. It's not a big deal. We're flexible here. It's our channel to do what we want with. Dykes last. Okay. I personally think the first thing we should do is Jason Autry recanting. That's what I'm most interested in. And then I want to see Dylan, and then I want to hear Terry Dykes. So do y'all know what else is coming up the rest of this week in the courts across America that we're paying attention to? Tomorrow, today's the 17th, right? Tomorrow, Courtney Clenny goes to court. Courtney Clenny goes to court tomorrow. She's going to ask for bond, and she's probably going to ask for her case to be dismissed. I don't think that's going to happen. Friday, let's all put our hearts and minds in a good place, cross our fingers, say our prayers. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is supposed to have a hearing on Friday. I don't even know what the content of that hearing is going to be. I saw rumblings today that Judge Naaman is going to be presiding over her court case. And if that is indeed the truth, she's in a heap of trouble. And I don't know what to do. Oh, and KS Granny, I won't be here next Wednesday either. I'm glad you brought that up. There will not be a Wine and Crime next Wednesday because remember, everybody, Tuesday night is Festivus for the rest of us. We're going to have our big Festivus celebration on Tuesday night. So no Wine and Crime Wednesday, and I want to say New Year's Eve is the following Wednesday. So we won't have Wine and Crime Wednesday that night either. So I'll adjust my schedule Monday night, Tuesday night. Maybe we'll do a Monday night and a Tuesday night. Not next week because it's Christmas. Ms. Demeanor needs a little break. I don't mind the live streaming part. All the preparation to have things available for us to cover. I have to have a break in between sometimes. Okay. So that's the rest of this week. Kelsey Fitzsimmons is Friday. Ugh. Antonio Brown has a hearing on the 22nd, which is Monday. Iceman cometh. What time is Clenny tomorrow? I do not know. I don't know specifically when her hearing is tomorrow, but I would bet if you checked Catnot Williams tomorrow morning, if it's available, she's probably going to be live streaming it, because I know she, if the hearing is available, she usually covers it. So that would be your best bet. And let me just tell you, I am so sorry. We need a moment here. Is that a University of Michigan flag I see you're flying in your picture, Iceman cometh? I need to know. December 29th and 30th, Zach Adams. The post-conviction relief hearing continues on the 29th and 30th. Yay! Go blue, baby. Hail to the victors. We will overcome the madness that is happening in our football program. And then after that, Sarah Grace Patrick starts on the 5th. And guess who has a hearing on the 6th? Raoul Valley. And then Corey Richens has a hearing on the 7th. And depending on what happens at the end of this month, Zach Adams may be back in court to finish up the hearing in his post-conviction relief. So we have a lot coming up. Cases that I'm going to be keeping on, new cases that I will be keeping an eye on are, of course, Sharon Moore. That is the University of Michigan football head football coach that went wackadoodles last week and then was arrested. So there's that. Definitely Nick Reiner is something that I will be following, especially because the lovely Alan Jackson is going to be his attorney. And any opportunity that I can see Alan Jackson practice law in a courtroom, y'all, I'm there. Color me in, because yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Brian Greasy's still undefeated. That's all I know about Michigan. That's all you need to know about Michigan. Tom Brady came from University of Michigan. You should know that too, Kelly. If you only know two things about University of Michigan, let it be those two. And then after Zach Adams hearing, like, things are going to be clipping along. Barry Morphew on the 12th, Brad Simpson on the 20th, Sharon Moore has a hearing on the 22nd, Aiden Carney has a hearing on the 23rd. And then Corey Richens' jury selection starts February 2nd. Holy smokes. We got a lot. There's a lot to cover here. So make sure you stay tuned in to all of the business. Let me know in comments, questions. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please make sure that you put it on your calendar, 6:00 on Tuesday, the 23rd. That is when we will be having our Festivus celebration. Shut up, Kelly. Hot take. You think Richens is going to take a plea deal? I don't. I think she is far too proud for that. Oh, if I were a betting kind of person, I would be putting money on that. KS Granny. I always post it on the Twix, the dates. I do it every Sunday. I try to remember to also put it on my YouTube channel. I will make sure that I make that a practice going forward so that everyone can see those dates, because we do have a lot coming up. And the only way I keep track of it is because I have it on the handy dandy cell phone. Oh, the white strips, not having any white strips. Yeah, she's like, what do I need to do to put an end to this? So we have a lot of content that we're still going to be putting together. I believe The first week in January, I'll also have an evening with Calling All Beings. We've been talking about doing an evening with just me on there and reviewing, kind of giving quick summaries of all of the different cases that are coming up. So if you're new to my channel and you're wanting to know what we're going to be covering and what those cases are, definitely when I end up going on with them, like I say, we've loosely talked about it being like the first week in January. Make sure you tune into that because that should be a pretty informative evening about all the things that I'm going to be covering in the coming months. So, and there's a lot. And these people keep committing crimes. Y'all got to stop it. Give me a break. We need to stop the madness. I didn't even talk about Mark Sanchez because we still have that. That's all the way in March. And oh yeah, we've got a lot still, y'all. The docket, misdemeanors docket is full. So we will have a good opportunity for a lot of hopefully fair cases that we can put the magnifying glass on and see how they're doing. That's the whole purpose of this, is to shed some light on our judicial system and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. Alrighty then, everybody. I have consumed way too much of your time. Make sure to follow me on the Twix if you don't already. I also have a TikTok. Hardly anybody goes over there, but I do have that as well. I do a quick little clip every morning on the TikTok. And of course, I'm here on YouTube. You all know that. So make sure you do the YouTube things like subscribe, share, notifications on. And you know, it doesn't cost a penny to be kind. So find someone to do something nice for today if you haven't already. And as always,